Congressman, we feel like we call on you all the time to be part of our conversations. And when the story turned to one about your office, we were very worried about your office and your staffers, including your intern on her first day. And I just want to start by saying I'm glad you're safe. And I wonder how your staffers are doing today.
Thank you, Nicole. The good news is that the damage could have been a lot worse, and the two members of my staff who were injured were released from the hospital last night. So they're now on a road to physical recovery. But the big thing is, of course, the trauma recovery, and that's very real. That can take a long time. And we got to make sure that everybody has the resources they need to fully grapple with what happened and recover from it.
I mean, I know there's been some reporting, probably not enough, and when you think about the scale of the trauma, but Capitol Hill staffers who were in the U.S. Capitol on January 6th reported feeling trauma and PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
And now you have this lingering angst that on any day in your district office, you could be vulnerable. What is available for them in terms of psychological support?
Well, there's a panoply of resources really available from the Capitol Hill Police, from the Chief Administrative Office, from the Sergeant at Arms, to the chaplain of the House, to all kinds of outside resources. We are going to have somebody who's kind of an expert in trauma recovery come and talk to our staff, and they can then decide what, if any, resources they want to avail themselves of. My former colleague, Ron Barber, who was with Gabby Giffords at that tragedy in Phoenix, suffered from PTSD and has recovered, and he would be more than welcome and is willing to be a resource. So we have a lot of resources, but everybody's individual situation is different, and we want to make sure that whatever happens is custom-made and appropriate and welcome for that individual.
You also, I think, have ignited what seems like nonpartisan conversation about security for members and their staffers. What can you tell me about what you're hearing from Democrats and Republicans?
In my 15 years in the House, I've never seen the kind of outpouring, or never experienced the kind of outpouring I have experienced in the last 24 hours from both sides of the aisle. Genuine sympathy, genuine concern, especially for my staff, and also a look of concern and recognition on people's faces that, hey, this was a random act of violence by somebody suffering from mental illness. If that could happen to you, it could happen to me. And so I think it's kind of broken open the discussion about security in our districts and to and from the Capitol, and what we can do to try to protect our staffs and the public we serve who may be in our offices when and if something awful happens.
And obviously, there are two pieces of that, right? There's, and as a country, we learned this after 9/11, there's a hardening of potential targets. But there also, on the other side of the equation, could be a softening of the things that radicalize and incentivize violence, as well as access to weapons. I wonder which parts of the conversations are taking place.
Well, I think for everybody, there's a different line. There's a balance between the need for security for our staff and the public we serve and our accessibility to the public we serve. And every member has maybe a different take on that, right? Like in my case, I've been in public office in local government and Congress for 29 years. I have always had an open door policy. I've always had an office on the ground floor to serve my constituents. And so that, we can deal with walk-ins if people have a need, and no barriers between me, my staff, and that public we serve until yesterday morning. So that worked for 29 years, but it stopped working yesterday morning. And, lots of different members have different ways of coping with that. But more and more, there are barriers being installed for security purposes that make it harder for the public to access that congressional office. And if that's a casualty of this tragic incident, I'm going to be one sad public servant.
What would it look like if we actually had, if everyone sort of got out of their corners and we had a holistic conversation about how to lower the temperature in the country?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the implication of your question, I totally agree with. I mean, look, we can't pretend there's not a context here. And anything that raises the threshold of acceptability about violence in our polity, anything that normalizes violence as a part of our polity, is absolutely wrong. It is inimical to constitutional democracy and needs to be condemned on a bipartisan basis. And unfortunately, we've allowed a creeping sense of, well, some of that's okay, and some of that's just hyperbolic rhetoric. Well, no, that kind of rhetoric empowers action. We saw it in January 6th, and we see it all across the country. That may not be the intent of those who engage in that rhetoric, but that can be the outcome. And I think after incidents like this, we really need to be careful and try to protect everybody's security and safety with the wording we use to describe a political situation or an opponent or a situation or issue.
I know you and I have gathered on some days when, over here in the political arena, things have been too hot, when members have targeted with images or language some of your Democratic colleagues with violence. I'm thinking of Mr. Gosar and Congresswoman AOC. I'm thinking of other members that have championed AR-15 pins and suggested they become the official gun of the country. Others who align and associate with militia groups. Some of those militia groups have been found guilty of seditious conspiracy. It feels like it's unraveled, that the train has left the station on this question of political violence, and that even if an incident like this is so harrowing that people get religion, all of the people who hear these messages and believe there's some sort of permission structure that's been granted to stand back and stand by or to act on it have already heard the wrong messages. What do we do about that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we go through cycles in our history, right? So violence, even violence in the Congress, was not unheard of in the 19th century. And maybe it culminated in the attack of Preston Brooks on Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts, which really inflamed both the North and the South and led directly to the Civil War. And that was a violent act committed by a member of Congress against a U.S. senator on the floor of the Senate. So we don't want to go back to those days. We know that, what can flow from that. And yeah, you may be right that the horse left the barn on this. That doesn't mean we can't try to put the horse back in the barn safely and soundly. It just can't be acceptable. And we need everybody to be preaching that, in our religious faith expressions, in our political expressions, in our social and cultural expressions. It is not okay to empower and give, as you said, permission for the entertainment of violence. It just is not. It's corrosive, and it's a fast way to end democratic institutions and the freedoms we all cherish.
Was there anyone whose outreach surprised you?
I was really positively taken with outreaches from our leadership. Speaker Kevin McCarthy called and we had a good conversation. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called. We had a great conversation. Republican and Democratic colleagues, both from my home state of Virginia and across the country, have reached out. Former members have reached out. I've been overwhelmed with the reaction. And it really has, at least for this moment, brought a lot of us together who otherwise might not have had reason to do so. So I'm glad to say, there's a humanitarian, empathetic streak in the Congress that's alive and well, and I've benefited from it, as have my staff, in the last 24 hours.